responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Guys, glad you're with us for this August 27th, 2025. We're going to be joined by Patrick Wood in just one moment to talk about several things. But first, we have to get to the tragic school shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota this morning. I want you to tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, whatever it is you do. Tell them to turn on the VCY station in their market if they have one. Otherwise, vcy.org or worldviewtube.com. Because we are going to have a very important conversation today and try to connect some dots with what is going on with the Genius Act. President Trump, signed the Genius Act. And there seems to be a battle going on between the Federal Reserve. I mean, isn't it pretty clear, folks? President Trump is not a big fan of the Federal Reserve, certainly not this Federal Reserve. And he's even wanting to fire one of the Federal Reserve governors, I guess, who they say is involved in some kind of problem with mortgages. But there's clearly a war going on between the Federal Reserve and the Trump administration. And I believe that the tech bros, the technocrats, are wanting to replace the Federal Reserve. There's a big battle going on. Now, many of them, I think, want to go to digital currencies, stable coins, cryptocurrencies. And I believe that some of the things that have been done, like the Genius Act and others, are going to cause for there to be an outflow of deposits from banks. And then some of these banks are going to fail. And the more banks that fail, the more they can consolidate banks and then bring in this new system. Why is it so urgent to do this now? Because the dollar is a debt-based system and we are at the end of the line. It has been inflated away, the purchasing power. We also have the consumer is losing confidence in the system. And the consumers are out of credit, many of them. They're putting even groceries, we now are told, on credit. So people are going to need some way to tap into more credit and to keep this country going with a new system. That comes in, then comes in the tokenization of your mortgage. What if you have a mortgage, let's say, of $300,000? And let's say you have paid down that with only $100,000 left to go. That means you have around $200,000 in equity sitting in your house. What if you were offered the opportunity to tokenize that $200,000 and now it appears on your phone, in your own wallet, on your phone, and you can tap into that $200,000 whenever you want? Now, that's not a whole lot different than maybe what some of you have. Some of you may have a line of credit on your home, meaning you paid your house off and you've kind of used your house like a bank. And you thought, well, I want to pay my house off. I don't want that interest payment. I don't want to pay all that. I want to go right to principal. So I'll pay it off, but then I'll get a line of credit against it. So if there's an emergency, I can just tap into it. And I think most times that interest is tax deductible. And maybe you have that line of credit on your house that's paid off, which, by the way, I looked up the other day, 38% of Americans have their homes paid off. 38%. That's something like 80 million households. So they have that line of credit. They never use it. But it's there. But they're responsible people, right? Why are they responsible? What's the proof of that? Well, they paid their house off, didn't they? They didn't go for a second and third mortgage. So they're responsible people that worked hard, delayed gratification, didn't go on cruises and trips and golf courses. And, a lot of them maybe did without a lot of that because they wanted to pay their house off and have that insurance, really, of knowing, hey, I've got my house paid off. No matter what, at least I got a place to live. And so they're disciplined people. So for them to have a line of credit against their house is really not a big deal because they've already proven they're very responsible people, and they're probably not prone to ever using that line of credit. It's just there if there's an emergency to tap into that equity. Now, would the average American be disciplined like that? No, because the average American doesn't have their house paid off. And so if they were offered the opportunity to tap into whatever equity they have, and now it's on their phone, how many of them would be prone to have compulsive behavior in purchases? How is this setting up for you? By 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy? At what point do people tap into their equity? They no longer own that home. They're now a renter. Now, I think the system is on the verge of collapse. That's just my personal observation based on watching the Feds. How many of you know that the Federal Reserve is billions and billions and billions of dollars in debt? The whole system seems to be at the end. We've got to go to a new system. Donald Trump had all of this handed to him, this mess, since 1913 accumulating. Now he's got to figure out what to do. And here come the tech bros. And they have a new system. And I'm certainly no fan of the Federal Reserve. But what is this new system going to do? How is it going to impact you, me? Now, what are all these National Guard troops really about? Is that really about crime in those cities? Why didn't he do that in his first term? Is that really about crime, or is it more than just about crime? Is it about crime, but it's also conditioning the American people to put National Guard troops in major cities? Because when this system collapses, when the consumer no longer trusts this dollar-based debt system, and we possibly go to a hyperinflation type of depression, if they cannot manage the crash well, how do you think the average inner city is going to respond? What about the people who are in our country who are the agitators, the Marxists? You're hearing talk today, are you not, about George Soros, Donald Trump talking about George Soros and what should happen to him. Wasn't he saying something about racketeering or RICO or something? There seems to be the Marxists want the whole system to burn to the ground. Now Stephen Miller with the White House has said, look, the Democrat Party is nothing but a cabal, organized crime syndicate, basically. So the Marxists are trying to burn the system down, and you can't let a good crisis go to waste. And the Technocrats are coming in to try to save the day, do away with the old system, and implement a new system. Isn't that what Peter Thiel of Palantir told us? The choice is between Antichrist and Armageddon, or maybe there's a third way, a third option. What are all these Alligator Alley and other temporary, very quickly thrown up jails? What are they? Is that really about illegal immigrants and parking them there so they can come out of the country? Maybe it is, but maybe just like putting the National Guard on the streets is about getting rid of crime, but it's really also about getting our troops and country and people ready for what's coming. Maybe those jails are also for the illegal immigrants, but they can be used when we need them to round up the domestic enemies, the Marxists, the anarchists. I just think there's too much going on here, folks. You got to connect the dots. There's too much going on. And why would we have the Genius Act signed that seems, from all my research now that I've been doing on this, to allow money to flow out of bank deposits and into crypto, Bitcoin, stable coins? Isn't that just inviting a bank run when deposits dip too low? And is that part of this war on the Fed to implement a new system? Is there an economic civil war going on in America? I think there is. And very few people are talking about it, nor understand how to prepare for it. I'm not here to give financial advice. I give financial opinion and analysis. But there is an economic war going on internationally, but there's one going on domestically. And most Americans are not seeing these signs. They see them for what they're told they are, but when was the last time the government told you the truth? Just call them stable coins. How stable are they, folks? How stable are they? All the names really hide and mask the truth. You have to ask questions. Question authority, as the old bumper sticker says. You got to be connecting the dots and saying, is this really about what they tell me it's about, or is there something bigger going on here? And we're going to get into all that with Patrick Wood. And where else are you going to hear this? So you better tweet, text, email, Facebook, Getter, True Social, get them over here to listening to this, because this is going to impact you, and yet you still have time to prepare. Okay? Now, with that being said, let's go real quick to what's going on in Minneapolis. The Daily Mail is reporting that Robin Westman, named as Minneapolis Catholic school shooter, as chilling videos plotting attack are revealed. They are reporting that he was formerly known as Robert, but changed his name to Robin. Or is this a transgender, folks? KARE 11, NBC affiliate in Minneapolis, is reporting that his mother was an employee at the school and that he changed his name to Robin in 2020 when he was 17. Now, we can't play a lot of the videos that he has released online because of all of the cursing. But he apparently had a book, a manifesto, if you will. According to reports, he had things written on the gun clips about threatening Donald Trump, President Trump. Apparently, again, early reports, if they are accurate and true, he had a bunch of anti-Semitic comments. Is the media going to tell you the truth about this character? But sadly, we have some dead children now and many wounded. So pray for the children, because many of them right now are in surgery. One young man said, my friend got hit in the back. He went to the hospital. Shots fired. He got under the pews, shot through the stained glass windows. It was really scary. These kids were in mass. They were praying. And at least 2 now are deceased. What is with these transgenders? My wife said, this is just people who are depraved, darkened-hearted. Romans 1, right, Brandon? I'm like, yes, ma'am. You got it. You think there's demonic activity here too? Uh-huh. Sure do. But you watch how the media tries to cover this up for as long as they can. But there's a new media, and the new media is not going to go for it. So we'll keep you posted on that. We'll have that more on that tonight on Brighton House Live. I'm going to have on Robert Spencer and others tonight as well. Plus, tonight we have what may be an hour to 2-hour symposium roundtable being hosted by my guest, Patrick Wood. He's going to come and respond to what I've been saying in my opening monologue and then tell you about his symposium tonight, his roundtable that we'll be carrying tonight on Brandon House Live. We'll be right back with Patrick Wood. The businessman from Texas that spent years trying to bring the perfect red heifers to Israel is coming to speak in Collierville, Tennessee, outside of Memphis, on Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. They now have sacrificed one of those red heifers. There it is burning. They've now gained 10 gallons of ashes. Why do they need this? Well, the Old Testament, Numbers chapter 19, says that for the purification ceremony, for their temporary tabernacle or full-time temple, they need the ashes of a perfect red heifer. This is the first time this has happened in over 2,000 years. The story is going global. It's highly controversial. In fact, there's even a connection between the attacks on Israel on October 7th and these 5 red heifers. Come and hear him speak live in person, Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. Full details, worldviewstore.com, and to get your tickets, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Our national conference, as some of you just heard, is coming up Friday night, October 3rd, because we were running a spot for it during that spot. So, of course, you heard about it, but others maybe didn't. So it's Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. And yes, we've added in Byron Stinson, the man that brought the 5 red heifers to Israel. Very controversial topic, many different beliefs and opinions, but it's one that we're not afraid to discuss because it's a reality. It's happening. And some Jews are over there saying, no, it was a perfect red heifer. We have 10 gallons of ashes. He comes highly recommended by Aaron Lavarco. He comes highly recommended, that's who put us in touch with him, and highly recommended by Dr. Rob Lindstedt. And he'll be with us live in person in the building Friday night, October 3rd, Saturday, October 4th. And you can join us along with Gordon Chang, who was my guest last night, about the 600,000 Chinese students that President Trump wants to let be here in the country. He responded to that. He's not in favor of that. Of course, we got Dr. Andy Woods, Chris Martenson, who's going to talk about a lot of what we're talking about today. Chris will get into. We have Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen with some polling he's done exclusively for his keynote address to tell you what are the values and what's the worldview embraced by the average American, so we can get a feel and understanding of the ideas that we need to be prepared to confront. It's so much going on. Alex Newman, many others. Hadia Miramonde, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. The banquet's filling up. I rehearsed a few glorious hymns with my piano player on the grand piano over the weekend. Another rehearsal this weekend, and we're getting ready for a few songs, and then we'll have a keynote address by Hadia Miramonde as part of our foundation banquet that is optional Thursday night. Full details there too, worldviewstore.com. Joining me now is Patrick Wood. Patrick, what do you make of my opening monologue? I spoke, now it's your turn. Take the floor, please.
Well, I think you have hit a nerve. And I've been saying for some time now, we've had discussions over it, and it's starting to hit home. Something big is in the wind vis-a-vis the Fed and assets and debt and in general. There's a swirl of propaganda. It's hard to get through that at this point because it's designed to confuse and, scramble our brains on these issues. But we're trying to think through the issues at this point. This is why we're having this roundtable this afternoon to have a discussion, right, from experts who really understand in detail and depth the crypto market, the economic market, the financial market, et cetera. We need to figure out for America's sake. I'm not convinced at this point. All of the other people who are talking about this and they're predicting, well, it's going to be a golden age. It's going to be wealth for everybody and everybody's going to be happy. That stuff. I don't believe that for a minute. But whatever else is going on, this could be the biggest heist of assets that the world has ever seen. And this is really, I don't like this. I don't want to even say it, but we have to say it, right? Because if this happens, we want to be forewarned.
Yeah, that's part of what we do here is study trends and try to help people understand the times so they can know how to respond and prayerfully do so, which obviously we do, you do. I mean, our whole ministry, I wish the listening friends knew how many hours I spend in a given week just doing what is necessary to make sure by the best of my ability, and then all I can do is trust on God's provision. But what we do based on the best of our ability to make sure this network is still going when others are collapsing. We are a debt-free organization, okay? But of course, like most organizations, even if they're debt-free, their biggest challenge every month is cash flow, right? You can be debt-free, but that doesn't mean your bills stop coming in. We're just fortunate enough that we've bought everything with our studio equipment and control room, over $1 million in equipment, et cetera. And we paid for it as we went. So we have no debt to service. We could not service debt and deal with cash flow We couldn't do it. And most groups can't. And a lot of them are coming to the end. And you're going to see more and more of the online conservative networks going away. Some of them already are on the verge of it. You can tell by their programming or lack thereof. We spend so many hours a week doing things to make us in a position strong to where we're constantly trying to cut costs, constantly reviewing budgets and what we can cut, what we can do ourselves, what computer systems we can have our own IT guy build and quit paying another company because we built that system in-house and now we're saving $2,000 a month on that service we were paying for. We brought it in-house, whatever it might be. Because what we're trying to do is be here when our audience really needs us more than ever. And that's what you're talking about. And that's what we want people to do in their own personal life. Find a way to understand what's happening so you can be in a position of stability and strength and of sound mind, mentally and spiritually, when people around you are going to need you. So I'm not asking you to do anything or consider anything that we haven't been doing here for years. My wife and others know I've been saying we want to be on the front line when everybody else has had to leave because they weren't preparing. Because the things we were preparing for were thought to be crazy talk, conspiratorial. Well, it's all happening now. So I want you to listen, folks. And remember, the mission here is for you to be in a position mentally, spiritually, physically, and if possible, financially, that you're continuing to go about your work and your life and your ministry and your business and being an influence in your society when others are running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Is that fair enough? Is that a legitimate application of this broadcast, Patrick? You bet.
It is. We're the proverbial watchman on the wall, and that wasn't necessarily an easy job in Old Testament for sure. You're the guy that's going to take all the first volley of arrows when they get shot, right? They want to pick off the watchmen in the first place. This is the same thing happening today. I wish that we did not even just have to discuss this topic, but something is big is afoot right now, and there's so much propaganda. Like I said, especially from my perspective, I've been studying technocracy now for 15 years. You know that. Mm-hmm. More than that, if you consider my work with the Trilateral Commission starting in 1970s, in late 70s with Anthony Sutton. When I look at the original iteration of technocracy in the 1930s, the same plan is in place right now. It hasn't changed. All these years, it's been basically the same thing, warmed over, repackaged, maybe changed the marketing name or whatever, but it's been the same plan all along to strip the assets away from the American people altogether and basically set up a rent-to-own economy based on assets. The technocrats of the early 1930s, they wanted to do away with the dollar. They wanted to erase the Fed. They wanted to get rid of a price-based economic system that's based on supply and demand. All of this stuff, they wanted to set up a distribution system where everybody is going to get their share of the national or continental wealth, they called it. That never happened, but now the technology is in place where they can do that. They didn't say how they're going to get all the assets away from Americans back then, but they said it very clear, you're not going to own anything. We'll take care of everything. What's changed? It's the same plan. So this is why I get disturbed now when you see all this technology and the tech bros especially. These are the dregs of the technocracy movement from the 1930s. We just can't afford to ignore what they've said for almost 100 years.
And literally there's a line from Elon Musk's grandfather to him, correct?
Yeah, he's the only generational technocrat at this point. You're exactly right. His grandfather was in charge of the technocracy movement in Canada. He was a mucky muck for sure. And Elon didn't know his grandfather. I think his grandfather died when he was like, 1 year old, something like that. But certainly his legacy has impressed Elon Musk all these years. And you can see that this is a family thing for him at this point.
All right, let's talk about the war. Do you agree with me, before I play some clips here, do you agree with me that there seems to be a civil war, an economic war going on between the old system of the Federal Reserve and the tech bros and Donald Trump and the new system they're looking to set up? Because not only do I believe that, but I think it's rooted in the fact that Donald Trump was never a part of that club. His dad wasn't a part of that club. They looked down on the Trumps for whatever reason. They seem to look down on the Trumps the same way that same group looked down on JFK and his father, Joe Kennedy. And of course, I think JFK was going after them, and that may have been partly one of many reasons to get rid of him, as they did in Dealey Plaza. But would you agree that Trump has been outside of that, going back to his dad, Fred Trump, and that there is an economic civil war going on now between the Fed and the new system of the tech bros and the technocrats?
Definitely. The war started in 1932. They said, we're going to get rid of all finance. That meant the Fed had to be on the chopping block even back then. But now you see President Trump has he fired the first volley when he signed an executive order right after he got into office, banning the Fed from issuing or continuing research on central bank digital currencies. Bam! That was a volley that was should have been heard all around the world. I don't know that anybody picked up on it, but I picked up on it for sure. This is a declaration of war against the Fed system. Well, when on the other hand, if you consider the system that's being erected in its place, this is going to be a private system, even as private as the Fed was in the first place, but people won't see it that way, I don't think. But this is a new privatized financial system that won't be in control or be controlled by any government. This is problematic for sure, because Congress is charged with the role of regulating our monetary system to support our economic system. Congress will have no say on this new system, I'm afraid. So where does this shake out? I don't know.
Well, let's look at how bad things are. The Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bassett, has said this about how bad the financial condition of the Fed. Well, I'm going to hold that for the break. Because we come back, we're going to hear him say the Fed is losing $100 billion a year. $100 billion a year. And of course, that means the taxpayer is the one that is on the hook for a lot of this. We're going to hear that, and we're going to hear some other clips and talk a little bit about how crypto, Genius Act, Bitcoin, stablecoin could actually cause there to be basically a bank run. As more and more people get where they don't trust the US dollar, they get out of the dollar and they go to Bitcoin, stablecoins. And isn't that a self-fulfilling prophecy to get rid of a bunch of these banks, the Feds, and create the new system? Don't go away.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, guys, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com. Worldviewradio.com. All right, so the Fed is losing $100 billion a year. Listen to the Secretary of Treasury, Mr. Bassett. Listen to this, folks.
Fed is the house. It's a casino. The casino doesn't lose money. The players are the ones that lose money. And I'm not going to comment. I'm like you. I don't really understand what's going on with the size, the scope, the cost of the building renovations. One can ask, was it a good idea to start the renovations for an enterprise that's losing $100 billion a year? So $100 billion because of a mismatch in the bond portfolio from the short-term rates. And I think that the Fed should undertake an internal review because I think all the other operations are endangering its independence of monetary policy. As I've said, monetary policy should be kept independent. It's a jewel box, should be walled off. But by undertaking all these other activities, then you come in for criticism, just like you're seeing here, that might impinge on monetary independence.
All right, so there you go. Patrick?
I won't. But he's alluding to the myth that the Fed is an independent organization, somehow run by the government, but not really. It's a private organization. We've established this so many times over the years. It has shareholders. The major banks are the owners of the Fed, like Citicorp, J.P. Morgan Chase, Wells Fargo, etc. These are the true owners of the Fed. Now, these banks have been milking the system, for 100 years now. The major banks have been milking the system to subvert money from us into their hands. This has been legendary. Everybody understands what Goldman Sachs has done to the world over these years. So what's he talking about? Well, you have one private organization over here that's owned by the banks. Now you have another private organization that's being erected on the other hand, that's being owned by the banks as well. Wait a minute, doesn't this seem the same thing? They're abandoning one system for another, and it's also going to be a private system. Okay, I get the picture here. They've never had a benevolent bone in their body, none of them. Whatever new system they're going to set up will basically hose all the people in the country. And it doesn't matter if the Fed goes away at this point. They have a new asset to replace the Fed with this new crypto system.
Mm-hmm. And in one sense, you can see why it's being done, right? Because since 1913, they've all destroyed the country. They've destroyed the financial system,
Exactly.
destroyed the country. So you can see
Yes.
kind of we're at this wall. We got our back against the wall. What else are we going to do? And this is what they come up with. Now, I don't think a lot of the people involved in this are Christians, and they don't have the Holy Spirit, and they don't have discernment, and they're committed to the idea, many of them, of, maybe the end justifies the means, or maybe they have pure motives. This is the best they can come up with in their own human mind, but they're committed to saving a system that has been destroyed long before they were born, and they see this as the way to save the system. Not only that, but to save themselves and make money along the way. So some may have good intentions, others may have not good intentions. Now, when it comes to President Trump, I think President Trump, in many regards, is responding the way a lot of people would if you were treated the way he was. There are still a bunch of lawsuits out there and legal rulings out there about him. Okay, I was reading all of his court trials or legal cases that are still pending. Will all of them go away? Maybe they will. But he still has a lot hanging over his head trying to rob him of his money with trumped up, pardon the pun, charges. Now, if you know anything about Donald Trump, he's on record saying, when these people do this, you go to war and you destroy them. It's a war, it's a battle, and you destroy your opposition. So I have to wonder if this isn't President Trump destroying not only what he sees as his opposition, but what has been the destruction of the American people, their purchasing power, the American dream, right? Because he knows a lot of people at the street level. He deals with the people that build his buildings, the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians, the cement guy, the brick guys. So he deals with everyday businesses, some of them small, some of them large, and knows what this deed-based dollar system has done. And then they come after him. Here's an example. It was reported that JP Morgan and Bank of America debanked President Trump under pressure from the Biden administration over January 6th, per the New York Post. I guess that's what NYP probably stands for. Tens of millions of dollars in holdings removed from JP Morgan and denied entry into Bank of America. This comes as Trump is reportedly planning an executive order going after the banks for this conduct. Lay down the hammer, 47. It has to stop. That was on August 5th of this year. So when you start looking at what's going on, you realize a lot of these people he's going after, they were going after him first. So this war is a civil economic war going on in the country. The average American is absolutely clueless that there is an economic civil war going on between the Trump administration and the Obama-Biden system that really, I think, put those guys into power, which includes a merging of the economic, the feds, and the intelligence arena. I think they are all tied together. And if you will notice, yesterday in his, 3-hour cabinet meeting, Tulsi Gabbard came out and said that she has all kinds of information they're going to be releasing on the corruption of the intelligence arena, which was weaponized against him. You can see he's going after these people. They went after him, but he also knows they have gone after the American people and other folks as well. They just happened this time to go after a guy who got himself reelected, and now he's going to war with them. And the average American has no idea. They just see the bits and pieces, Patrick.
Well, yeah, I might disagree on some particulars, but that's basically the bottom line.
What?
There is a war. There is definitely a war going on between capitalism and technocracy. Technocracy is the only economic system invented from scratch in the world. There's never been another economic system modeled other than capitalism and free enterprise.
Now, where would you disagree with me?
There's only two choices.
Where would you disagree with me? Would it be in how much President Trump is avenging, or how much he's actually controlling all this because he's been tapped by the tech bros?
Well, I've said this so many times. It's not really about Trump. It's about the economic system. All the political theater aside, okay? This is all about economics. And there's two competing systems in play. One's technocracy, the other is capitalism and free market economics, which we all understand and know. That's based on the dollar. It's based on debt-based, at this point, a debt-based economic system, supply and demand, etc. Technocracy is an otherworldly economic system based on other types of accounting, especially energy credits. And the day, that was what they were proposing. But now we have crypto. Crypto is so much more efficient, if you will, and it can be controlled at scale, and all the accounting can be done at scale with AI today. Just that's almost a no-brainer at this point. So they have a perfect system now to implement this switch from capitalism / free market system into technocracy. And if they're successful, the people will own nothing in the end, because technocracy originally said there will be no private property in that system, in that economic system.
So explain to me how you think that happens. Back to my monologue. People have a house of $300,000. They have a house worth $300,000. They've paid it down to where they only owe $100,000, which means they have $200,000 in equity, and now they tokenize that money, right? But to tokenize that money, they've got to agree to what, Patrick?
Well, we'd have to give up our property rights or right to own private property, and that would cut the legs out of from underneath our economic system. Our economic system is predicated on the right to own property. Remember, almost every, well, not every, I can't say that, but a majority of small businesses have been created in America based on the equity that they had in their home in the first place. When they wanted to start a business, whatever, usually that's the first asset that gets pledged as a collateral against a loan or investment or whatever to make small business happen. How successful has America been? Because of the small businesses. There used to be hundreds of thousands of small businesses that contribute jobs all over the place. And they say, I remember 50 years ago, there was a statistic that said, well, 80%, 85% of all the jobs in America are created by small business. This is not the case today. But historically, the main asset that we had was our house. So if that equity, if that asset is taken away from us, in other words, ownership is transferred to another party, not you, you can't borrow money against it at that point. And if we're going to be if there's going to be a switch between a debt-based economic system to an asset-based economic system, that's going to be huge. That's going to be absolutely a hurricane that hits America.
But it will be accepted by some folks because they'll see it as, oh, now I can tap into that $200,000 in my house to help pay for my health insurance, medical bills, groceries. So many of them will invite it because they are maybe house rich but cash poor. And so they'll surrender the deed to their house to be able to put that wallet of their equity on their phone, and now they can spend it right off their phone.
How many people have seen the signs around their towns, will buy house for cash?
Right.
Okay. Who has the cash to pay for a $200,000 or $300,000 dollar house at scale? Well, these have been the people like BlackRock, State Street, these huge investment funds have been picking up properties, paying cash, turning them into rental properties. Then people have to pay more rent than they ever would have paid in a house payment in the first place, but they have no choice. We see house prices still, well, there's just no houses available at this point for a lot of people to buy. So they have to rent. So
in other words, we're becoming a renter nation already. And many people want to be out from underneath that mortgage anyway. They want to tap into that money and then go take the cruise they've always wanted to take because they can now tap into that equity. And the younger people, a lot of them don't even want to own a house. They want the freedom they don't want commitments, right? They don't want a commitment of marriage. Many of them don't want the commitment of children. They don't want the commitment of a mortgage. So this is going to actually go over very well with some people. Now, when I come back, I want to play a clip. Can President Trump do a lot of these things under a state of emergency? Don't go away.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled No Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. My guest, Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news, Technocracy.news. He has a roundtable today with several experts on what we've been talking about. We're going to bring you that roundtable tonight. We're grabbing it. He's generously agreed to let us grab that feed and play it for you tonight on Brandon House Live. Let me go to a couple real quick clips here before we run out of time. Is it possible, Patrick, that President Trump is going to do a lot of this on executive orders under states of emergency and have powers to do things? Listen to what he said in the cabinet room yesterday.
So I would have much more respect for Pritzker if he'd call me up and say, I have a problem. Can you help me fix it? I would be so happy to do it. I don't love, not that I don't have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it. No problem going in and solving, his difficulties. But it would be nice if they'd call and they'd say, would you do it? And we do it in conjunction. Now, we work very well with the police because we naturally get along with the police. So the police and us work really well together, whether the mayor is opposed or whether, you have a really rotten mayor there, too. He's got a 6% approval rating in Chicago. And I see black women wearing a red MAGA hat last night on television. Please let the president come in. My son was attacked. You have a force of black women. They're like only Trump. They want Trump to come in.
All right. So is he going to start using executive orders and powers under a state of emergency to do things like we've never seen probably in a very, very long time? And that would not only be with police, National Guard, criminals, gangs, but economically, maybe even elections. Because you remember he joked last week, hey, in like 3.5 years, if we're at war, can I just stay as president like Zelensky has done? And he chuckled. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, well, what if we have now him showing us that these elections are so criminal and so rigged, and maybe even the midterms coming up, they try to rig them, that he doesn't allow for it. He doesn't validate it. He signs some kind of executive order because now we have his, Assistant White House Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, saying the opposition party is basically it's a cabal of mafia gang members. Listen.
Look, we discussed this last time I was on your show. The Democrat Party does not fight for, care about, or represent American citizens. It is an entity devoted exclusively to the defense of hardened criminals, gangbangers, and illegal alien killers and terrorists. The Democrat Party is not a political party. It is a domestic extremist organization. Look at Chicago. They've shut down the police department. They've handcuffed law enforcement. And as President Trump says, they have turned the streets of Chicago into a bloody killing field. Here in Washington, D.C., before President Trump launched the federal law enforcement liberation in D.C., there was a murder on the streets of this town every other day. Body after body after body after body. That was Washington, D.C. Residents were afraid to go to restaurants. They were afraid to go into entire neighborhoods. They were getting carjacked right and left, robbed and beaten. That was Washington, D.C. Now we're 2 weeks homicide free, the safest the city has ever been in its entire history. And the Democrats, instead of jumping up and down and saying, thank you, President Trump, thank you for saving our lives, thank you for saving our cities, thank you for scrubbing away all the graffiti, the trash, the homeless encampments, the druggies. Instead of cleaning up the city, instead of thanking him for that, they're saying, President Trump, how dare you save our lives? How dare you save our children? How dare you save our city? The Democrat Party, Sean, that exists today, it disgusts me.
Okay, so he's saying it's an extremist organization, and I bet you hear pretty soon that language change to they are a terrorist organization. And I believe you could see President Trump using his powers as president to do things this country, well, actually what some of us wanted him to do the first time. Like General Thomas McInerney and I and others at the end of his term saying he should invoke the War Powers Act instead of turning us over to a Marxist cabal. And we're on record having said that. I have to wonder if now President Trump isn't realizing what's going on and he is going to use his powers And he's got now Pete Hegseth, and he's got the military. He didn't have all that the first term. I think something's in the wind big. Civilly, legally, economically, executive orders, and maybe powers that we haven't seen practice in this country in a long time, because he doesn't have to worry about re-election. He's 80 years old, and I don't think he, frankly, wants to go away and turn this all over to them again, particularly after what they've done going after his children, his banks, his business. He's at war. He has declared war on the system. Now, whether he turns the new system over to people we want to celebrate or not, that's the conversation we're having. But he seems determined. The other side wants to burn down the system, meaning the free market constitutional system. President Trump wants to burn down this socialist, fascist system we have today. And I think some of it's personal. But I think that's what's going on here. And I don't hear many people describing what we are today.
They're not. They're not at all. Most people never heard the word technocracy before. And you can't understand what's going on until you kind of get an idea what the alternative is. And this is what we're talking about, basically. Hopefully, our roundtable this afternoon is going to flesh out some of these ideas. I don't know where it's going to go, honestly. But I know when you put good people together, experts in various fields, they're going to come up with something we haven't seen before. So we're connecting the dots still. And by the way, people can pick up this live stream by going to technocrats.news. I'm going to put it on the homepage, and it'll be broadcast as soon as it goes live. You'll see it there if you want to, or go to YouTube and see it over there, or maybe Twitter or X. Excellent.
And technocracy.news. And then we're going to be replaying it tonight on Brandon House Live at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern. Technocracy.news, technocracy.news. I have so many more clips I could play. We're out of time, but I'll play some more of them tonight because the Federal Reserve is in big, big trouble. Yes. And this is just giving President Trump and his team the excuse to take over like never before. And so this is going to get very, very interesting. But again, we should have America's pastors helping lead the way and prepare their church and flock. But sadly, I don't think many pastors think what we're talking about here is biblical. But this is in the Bible, this kind of thing. The mark of the beast system that's being built, cashless society. I mean, the Bible really, if you study it, you'd understand what's happening. I pray more pastors will do that. All right, stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider, vcy.org. We're worldviewtube.com. Thanks for listening. Take care. And that's our broadcast on those stations. We're back with WROS and Worldview 2. We're going to let Patrick go. He's got a busy day to get ready for his big live streaming event coming up at technocracy.news. Again, we're going to replay it tonight as part of Brandon House Live at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern Standard. Let me ask you this, folks. When this system goes down, the question is it going to be hyperinflation? Are we going to go into a hyperinflation scenario where they're just going to have to print? Or is Trump's people going to take this over and switch over to a digital system before that? I don't know. But I do know it's going to be a big financial issue like this country's never seen. And I'm watching shows. I'm listening to people. I'm talking to people that have been bankers, stockbrokers, they're attorneys, financial attorneys. This is their wheelhouse. And many of them are scared. Now, look, as Christians, we don't need to run to fear. But there is a healthy fear, the kind of fear that causes you not to linger on the train tracks when you know the train's coming. To not walk across the interstate to the grocery store. You're not supposed to be walking across the interstate. That's why it's illegal to walk across interstates. You got to find another way there. Now, I know there's a shortcut, cross the interstate. Well, A, it's illegal, but B, it's illegal because that's a great way to get killed. You have a healthy fear, and you don't go on the interstate. You find the little bridge that goes over the interstate. It's a longer walk down the road to get to that little bridge that walks you over the interstate, but you do it because you have a healthy fear. There is a fear that is God-given that causes you to see danger and run from it. The Bible speaks to that. A wise man, a prudent man sees danger and flees from it. The fool ignores it and suffers. Question again is, are you going to be in a position of independence from this system? Are you going to have prepared yourself the best you can? You can't prepare for everything. You can't. But are you going to do the best you can to prepare for what's coming for yourself, your family, and so that you can be someone when everybody else is losing theirs, losing their head, not thinking clearly, panicking, emotional, anxiety? You're cool as a cucumber. You saw this coming, you prepared, and now you're able to speak to people about it. Whereas otherwise, your entire existence might be just survival. Are you prepared? Do you understand the system? Do you understand that these dollars we hold, that's fiat currency, they're worthless. And they're becoming more and more worthless as the day goes on. They're losing their purchasing power. It's not gold going up, folks. It's the dollar going down. I don't offer financial advice, but I do give financial opinion. Let's see what gold and silver are at today. Because, you know, for so many years, I've been talking about gold, haven't I? And silver as real money. As real money. The Bible describes land, houses, cattle, gold, silver, hard assets, real money, not debt-based. See, that's the great thing about gold and silver. It has no liens on it. It's not debt-based. It's universal. It has intrinsic value in and of itself because of its rarity, and it's a storehouse for wealth. But when I was talking about all this, you know, now for the last 30 plus years, reading Larry Burkett's book in the early 90s or mid 90s and getting on board on this in a big way, people were not wanting to pay attention. And they could have bought in when gold was $250 an ounce. They could have gotten in when gold was $300 an ounce, $400, $500 an ounce, $800 an ounce, $1,000 an ounce. But they just kept ignoring it, thinking, oh, no, I like the debt-based system. No, I don't need an insurance policy. No, I don't need to have a hedge against inflation or a corrupt government that deliberately is doing this to steal my wealth. What did John Maynard Keynes say? By this process of inflation, we can steal the majority of the people's wealth and not one man in a million will know what we're doing. And yet, where's gold today? As I'm looking today, gold is at $3,395 an ounce. $3,395 an ounce. Remember when it was at $500 an ounce? $800 an ounce? $1,000 an ounce? And I was sitting at this news desk telling people, you should diversify. I don't give financial advice, but my financial opinion is you should diversify out of these fiat debt-based dollars. And silver now is at $38.63. Remember when it was $15 an ounce? $17 an ounce? $20 an ounce? Well, you say, Brent, I've missed the boat. No, you're going to pay more for it. But I think it's going to $5,000. I think it's going to $6,000. I think it's going beyond that. That's my opinion. Because I think they're going to have to anchor this whole new system with a percentage of gold and land and minerals and hard assets, or no one's going to trust it. Do what you want. Maybe you can't afford to do anything, but you better be thinking about these things. Take care.